You're listening to the Living Adventures podcast, a lifestyle podcast hosted by Ashleymielke and Victoriavance. Tune in for a new episode every Thursday to hear our honest conversations about topics like freedom, creativity, spirituality, luxury living, health and wellness, and above all else, building community.
We have real and unfiltered conversations inspired by our search to feel connected to people who give a shit about us, support our dreams, and understand our struggles. Our mission is to provide you with the tools, guidance, and motivation to navigate any moment in your life with the lens of your neurodivergent mind, with a community who gets you. Adventure on. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Living Adventures podcast. I'm so excited today because if you're not watching this on video, then you need to know that Victoria and I are sitting on our couches with blankets and cute little mugs, and we're all cozied up because this is the first time that Victoria is recording since being in Mexico. So it feels right?
Yeah, honestly, I'm cold. Like, my feet are cold. I just got back from picking up my Thanksgiving turkey, and I wore 3 pairs of socks. I'm still wearing 3 pairs of socks, and I'm cold.
Pairs?
So I have 3 pairs of socks on right now.
Oh my God, that's a lot of socks. I'm just wearing big fuzzy ones.
I do want to state the reason why I am so cold. There is a slight medical reasoning for people who don't know.
Oh, right, your feet thing.
Years ago, I got metal put in my feet, and they cut the nerves ending in my feet, and the doctor was like, oh, so for the next 5 to 10 years, you might get hypothermia in the winter. And because your feet and your hands are like the first places that will get cold, basically, because it's like the least important extremities and everything, you're protecting your core organs so you don't die. My body goes into hypothermia very fast. And there is meds for me to take for this. They're like blood thinners. I had just started taking them, and they take about 2 weeks to start working. So
you have to take them in the winter?
At night. So I take them in the winter, basically just when it's cold out. Like if it's below 30 degrees, I take them.
Oh my gosh.
And they just help push blood to my feet so that they can stay warmer.
Wow. Okay, see, now I'm not going to judge you as hard for wearing 3 pairs of socks.
So my feet literally will just turn purple very fast because they don't have the proper circulation. Like I cannot regulate my body temperature. That's why I'm like fearful of getting sick right now. But I took NyQuil last night. I feel good. My throat hurts, but that's just because like the air is so dry compared to like humid Mexico.
Oh, it's so dry. Yeah. And with the heaters on, it gets way drier. I had the first year I moved to Boston, I didn't realize how dry it gets with the heaters on. And we literally had to buy like humidifiers for every room.
Yeah. Yeah. We have the humidifier going. And so that is why I'm so cold.
Fair. Yeah. Makes sense. Me too. I'm just cold because hot drinks. Cold.
And I literally texted Ashley while I was sitting in line to pick up my turkey. I was like, do you want to do like a cozy vibe recording? Because like, I don't want to be at my desk.
Same. Sorry, Max was doing something. I'm in my living room, so obviously Max is available to be creating distractions. But yeah, Victoria was like, do you want to do cozy vibes? And I was like, yes, I do want to do cozy vibes. All I've ever wanted to do is record this podcast on the couch, but I hadn't figured out how. And then you just presented me with a challenge, and I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out how, and it's really dumb and simple. I just moved my entire desktop to my coffee table, which maybe isn't simple, but it's not that bad. It's really, really cute. I'm like, wow, this is fun. This is exciting. This is a vibe.
I think you should just get the new laptop.
No, I know. I should just buy the laptop. Hope maybe there'll be a Black Friday sale on Amazon or something, or somewhere in the world for me to buy a laptop. A new one. Yeah, we'll see. Vibes. Anyways, well, let's get into hyperfixations of the week. I can go first.
Yeah, go first.
As Victoria may know because she cooked with me last night, is cooking. I'm hyperfixating on cooking all of these fun fall recipes with like butternut squash. Really, that's the only one. Butternut squash. I did some stuff with golden tomatoes too. Those are in season right now too. And I've been having a lot of fun cooking new recipes and trying new things. Last night, Victoria came over and watched me make risotto, which takes way too long. I will never be making it again, but I'm glad I did. We also made homemade ice cream. So like the hyperfixation on the cooking thing is very real.
Oh yeah. It was so good. The ice cream was 10 out of 10. Did Adrian like it?
He loved it. He loves it. And he liked the risotto. He was like, the risotto was so good. Dang it, I forgot to give him some to take to lunch. Whatever, he'll have it for dinner, I guess.
Did you have breakfast risotto?
I didn't. When I woke up, I wasn't craving like savory. I was craving sweet, so I actually had a waffle. So I'll probably have risotto with my tofu at lunch.
Vibes.
It works out.
Yeah, honestly, 90% of what I've been doing is cooking as well. And today, now that I have my turkey and everything, all the shopping's done, starts Thanksgiving prep. So besides my one sales call today and body doubling, I'm just gonna be cooking all day,
Fun.
which I'm very excited about. I love this. And so my hyperfixation has just been like getting everything ready for Thanksgiving, which is funny because this is really one of the times of year, one time a year where I truly feel like I'm gaslighting myself and I become a completely new person for an entire week where I am the most organized and coordinated person in the entire world. I literally become atypical, Ashley, or type A, whatever. I become neurotypical type A. Like, I am a viber. I am known as that. Like, I'm just here to, have fun. I don't need a strict plan or whatever. I'm fine. No, I become a completely different person. My list was coordinated by store, by aisle, and everything. I am in and out of there. I am there on a mission. I have all of my recipes in one document that I'm cooking.
Oh my gosh.
I have each thing planned out. Like, it always goes smoothly. Like, I'm not doing this out of perfectionism, which I think it can come off of. It goes smoothly and perfectly every single time. I don't know why with food I'm just able to do that. Which
That's
is
so
funny
funny.
because I know with ADHD it's like, oh, it's hard to follow a recipe. I've never had that. I'm great. I'm great at it.
I've been
Unless
known
the
to mess
recipe's
up.
in another language.
Okay, well, that's fair. I have been known to, not struggle with recipes, but definitely mess up recipes because I read through stuff too fast. But it has helped my perfectionism because if I mess up cooking, then it's like, oh, well, we can fix it. There's always, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. So that's been helpful. But yeah, that's super weird that you get so organized. I wonder why that is.
I think it's because, I don't really know. I love it though. I truly love cooking for Thanksgiving. I love cooking for large parties of people. Like, my goal in life is just to have a big house and friends just to come over and everything, and they can bring a bottle of whatever, maybe a dessert, and I'll cook an entire meal for everyone and just have fun. That is
Fun.
something I deeply love. I think it's a community building thing. I like just cooking for people and sharing that. That this isn't stressful at all for me. And it's I would think that, oh, now I'm planning on doing all this. I'm stressed. I am so relaxed. But
Yeah,
it's also because I've done it so many times before.
Sure.
I've cooked for 30 plus people for a Thanksgiving dinner. I'm literally cooking for 4 people this year. I'm not stressed at all.
Way better. I also think that I've been thinking about a lot with food too, is you're not in a rush. One, you planned ahead. So you have many days in advance to prepare. Nothing is going to fall behind if it even could. And you're not rushing. It's not like you have a 9 to 5 and then you have to go home and cook and you have to worry about that, or you don't have all these other things, and you've allowed yourself to slow down enough so you don't have 14 client calls today, and you're also trying to cook, you're slowing down. And that's something that I realized for me with cooking, if I want to enjoy cooking it, not to be stressful, because cooking can feel very stressful for me, but it only feels stressful if I put a time crunch on it. So if you remove that and you're oh, I'm allowing myself to do this and giving myself permission to enjoy this, that changes my perspective on cooking totally.
Yeah, because it's I think, so it's my plan is to eat for let's say 2 p.m. If it gets served at 2:10, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Nobody's going to die. And so I don't put stress around timing. I kind of just organize okay, the oven usage. And I just basically design everything off of that. Once it's whatever happens. Every oven is different. I can't control that. I have great thermometers that I can do the best of my ability. And I've also definitely cooked so much in my life and made so many mistakes in the kitchen and whatever that I am extremely confident in that, and not in a perfectionist way. Just if things happen, I can deal with it. I know how to fix it and whatever. And so but it feels like I don't have ADHD.
That's so funny.
So this is the fun few times a year where I'm I don't think I actually have it though.
I don't think so. No, this doesn't make sense. Well, I'm glad I'm not cooking Thanksgiving. Shout out to my granny, because hard pass on that. I will be showing up and I will be eating, and that's about it. Maybe provide some jokes. It's like me, you know how we were like, when we wanted to go on a
personality hire.
yacht? Yeah, the personality hire. Whenever we wanted to go on a yacht this summer, me and Victoria were like, we can provide amazing conversation, very funny jokes, and an awesome playlist. I'm like, that's pretty much what I bring to Thanksgiving as well.
I'm like, I can bring some ice. I can bring drinks if you all need to drink. Like, let me know what you need. I'll bring whatever. Like, just let me know when I need to show up.
Totally. I love it. All right. Well, I guess this leads us into our next segment now that we've wrapped up our cooking hyperfixations, which is goal setting. Ooh, baby. The new year is upon us. You will be setting goals. You will be trying to be different people. You will be succeeding, and some of you will be failing. And so today, Victoria thought it would be a good idea, and I agree, to break down how to actually set goals in a way that will actually be achievable, as well as mistakes you might make along the way. Victoria has a very beautiful plan laid out. I have some tips to throw in between. So, Victoria, take us away.
I want to first start this conversation before I get deep into this, because this is something I do with every single client, our first session, which is a goal setting session. And I ask whenever we're on like a sales call is like, what is your relationship with goals going forward into this? Often it's, I've never set a goal in my entire life because I never believed I could achieve it. Or I'm too scared to because every time I have, they've never worked out. And those are the two biggest common ones. I would say obviously there's like middles and in-betweens in that story and mixes.
Yeah.
So if you're not on either end of the scale, don't worry, you are still included in that. I also want to point out during December and January, definitely, which is why we're making this, is there's a huge push on you need, like, what did you fail at this year? What do you need to start doing better and everything? And what goals do you need to set? Here's all the goals I'm setting for myself for next year. And I want you to just take a deep breath and be like, we're going to right now talk about how to set goals for you and only you, because we get caught up in a lot of other people's shit on social media. And just because another person's goal is 10K steps a day does not mean your goal right now needs to be 10K steps a day. Maybe you need to try out that goal because you needed to go on another journey. And so we're going to talk all about this on goal setting. And we're going to make this a welcoming topic. If you have questions going on this, please let us know, because we are here to make other parts. Ashley and I will say, I hate when people call themselves an expert, but I am a fucking expert on goal setting. And I know Ashley is too. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay, two things off of what you just said. And I have a really good example of, and so do you, and we can talk about your Mexico thing and stuff, because I love that your like clients don't set goals because they're afraid they're going to fail, right? This happens all the time, especially with business owners. They're like, I don't want to say I'm going to make $10,000 next month because what if I don't? Right? And we have this fear, like, I can't set a big money goal, a big sales goal inside of my business because what if I don't get 5 new clients? And it's like, okay, what if you don't? And I'm going to give you an example. This time last year, I was like, I want to start a YouTube channel. My New Year's resolution is I'm going to start my YouTube channel. I'm going to film every single week. I'm going to have vlogs go out every single week. And I don't know if you knew me in January 2020 through July 2022, all that time. I didn't record a single vlog, not a single one. And my goal for the whole year, the only thing I wanted to do, my only New Year's resolution was a stupid YouTube channel. And I didn't do it because I didn't want to, because I had a lot of fear around it, because I didn't have the energy levels to do it. I was pivoting my business. There was a lot going on. And it would be really easy to shame myself and be like, oh my gosh, my one New Year's resolution, I can't even hit it. And it's just like, it wasn't time. And I mean, I had the whole year to do it. And I started the YouTube channel now, which is very exciting. I mean, it's the end of the year. But it's like, sometimes you can set a goal, and that doesn't mean that you have to hit the goal on your timeline. It doesn't mean that the goal that you set is going to look the way you think it's going to look when you achieve it. You know, like even with clients and sales goals, like you can say you're going to, my first year in business, my first month in business, I was like, I'm going to make $20,000 my very first month cash. I can do it. Other people have done it. Why not me? I did not do that, but I made $9,000 and I thought that was crazy. And it was like, maybe because I was dreaming really, really big, it allowed me to achieve something even bigger than if I just played it safe and said one client, you know?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think I used to be on the side of not necessarily like not setting goals, but I used to play it extremely safe. But I also felt like a lot of the goal setting stuff that I saw when I was like up until like 3 years ago was extremely toxic and everything and not done well. So I didn't feel like it was accessible to me. And so I would like my New Year's resolution, I think, let's say like 2018, 2017 is I wanted to learn how to crack an egg with one hand. I did it in like a month and a half. And then I was like, all right, I'm vibing for the rest of the year. Peace. But it was like, that's like literally, I just wanted to be able to do something new. And like, I thought it was cool. I can still do it. I don't do it that often, but like, I don't know. I wanted to do that year. And I knew it wasn't going to take an entire year to do that. But it was like a space for me to start getting more comfortable doing it, for me to start setting mental goals. I think.
Just by like trying new things. Well, it's almost like, you know, starting off with a goal that's small like that gives you confidence because now you have evidence that you can accomplish a goal. I mean, imagine if I had never achieved any other goal before and I set out to make $20,000 in a month and I didn't do it, I could feel really bad about myself and be like, well, I'm bad at setting goals and that just means I can't ever achieve goals. But I think I've had a lot of evidence in my life previously, like, oh, I can set little goals and achieve them. Like one year, my New Year's resolution was like, I want to go on 5 international trips. And it's like, okay, that one I can control. Like that's not anything that I have to change about myself. I just have to go out and book them and buy them, you know? But it's like things like that you can be like, okay, I set that. I did it. I feel confident about myself. How can I build on this confidence? Like you said, to do something maybe a little bit more mental, a little bit more challenging, a little bit more of a test to my, you know, confidence and belief in myself and things like that.
And so I guess I have like, I don't know how many, I can count this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very specific things that I go over with clients. So
let's go.
Part of this, I guess, should I start at the top or should I go off of what we just were talking about? Well, let's go off of what we were just talking about.
Okay.
Because so the reason why I actually think that me setting that goal with cracking an egg was so beneficial is because that was a visual goal. I can visually see I have achieved it, right?
Yeah.
And you saying I can see myself going to 5 different countries, I visually can see I achieved this goal. Yeah. So I think with ADHD, object permanence comes into this because I truly say like I don't have object permanence of like objects. I have object permanence of memories and thoughts and feelings. And that's more prevalent that I see with my clients and everything. So a huge one I work on with my clients is setting up sensory-based descriptions to tell us you have achieved whatever your goal is.
Yeah.
So what this means is not just setting a materialistic goal or a visual goal, because let's say this is like a very basic one. Let's say you want to lose 5 pounds. You can't necessarily tell off of your body if you've lost 5 pounds just looking at it. Yes, you can see it on a scale, but why do you want to lose? And like this goes into a lot more of like the whys, which we'll get into. But why do you want to lose that 5 pounds? What will it feel like if you lose those 5 pounds? Or what will it feel like if you've made $20,000 in this month?
Totally.
What will it feel like if you start resting more? What will it feel like if you start walking an extra 10 minutes a day?
Yeah.
Knowing how this goal, whatever you're going to set, which I guess we'll go up to the top after talking about this one, is setting like something internally for you that really defines when you've achieved it. And Mexico is a great version of this to me. Is I said I wanted to make 2 friends when I was in Mexico. I wrote in my journal for myself, okay, what does a friend mean so that I can know I've achieved this? And I was like, I want them to follow me on Instagram. I want us to have a great conversation, even if it's just one conversation, I never talk to them again. I want to be able to remember their name in the conversation. And that's it. That was it. That was what I defined as a friend.
That was so good.
I achieved it.
Yeah. I love that.
But if I'd said, oh, I'm just a friend, like a friend can mean so many things. Like Ashley and I are friends. But that's I can't build that relationship in 2 months.
Yeah.
That's unachievable to expect of myself.
Yeah. That's so smart. Yeah. And I can even say like when I'm working with clients, it's the same thing on like the money level, right? Like I actually don't like, obviously I'm a business coach, so I care that my clients are making money, but I don't care how much money they make. I literally could care less about that. I care more about them as a human. And so it's the same thing. It's like how you said, like, okay, you want to make $20,000. Why? Like, what do you think that you will get when you have that money? And they're like, oh, I'll have more free time. I'll have this thing that I can buy, right? And so now we're starting to, like you say, visualize like what they'll do with the money. Because it's not just you want to make $20,000. Like, what can you do with that? What does that look like? How will you know that you've achieved, you know, success with the money? Like, because you could make money and not spend it the way that you wanted to spend it. Or even how you're saying, like, with losing weight, I think, like, this will, when we get into the why, will matter too. But, like, you know, what do you feel like? What do you do? You know, do you have more energy after you lose 5 pounds? What are you doing with that energy? Are you now going outside and playing more with your dog? Are you hanging out more with your kids? Are you more energized while you're cooking? Because I feel like when I've set goals like that, it's like so cool in the moment where you're like, you didn't even think about the fact that you achieved that goal, but all of a sudden, like, yes, if I made 20K, I'm like, oh, I did that. But then it's like those moments in real life where you're sitting in your kitchen, you're like, oh my gosh, wait, I did that. It's like I'm living that moment that I visualized, that I could feel that thing. And it's like, oh, we did that. And it's like, it feels even cooler.
And it feels like a dream. Like, I literally texted Ashley today. Like, I feel like I've been living in a dream because ever since, like, I worked so hard on myself in Mexico, which we'll get into. And I really wanted to work on making, like, resting easier, making just my life in general easier, not getting stressed about little things that I really didn't need to be stressed about because, like, that spikes your cortisol levels. That's not healthy for you. It takes, like, I think the statistic is like 15 minutes to an hour to come down from a cortisol spike and everything. And so I was like, you know what, let's just, like, how can I live a life where my cortisol is just not even spiking? How can I start, like, just not even getting stressed by those things anymore? And so I used to get so stressed around finding parking. I used to get so annoyed going shopping and everything if people are slow checking out. And yesterday I had to go shopping for Thanksgiving. I got front parking spots all day yesterday and today. I was like, yesterday going to see Ashley, parking spot right there just opened up. I was just like, last one. I didn't even think about the fear of not finding a spot. Normally I used to text Ashley, like, manifest a spot for me, like, real quick, because I was just like, in my life, I can't have a spot. Like, I used to drive around for hours finding parking in Boston. It's horrendous. Okay. And I'm just finding a spot right away. And it's like, yeah, maybe it's left, whatever. But it's just like, I'm not stressing over it. Like, it will come when it's ready. Or yesterday, waiting in line at the grocery store, there was a shorter line. And I was like, why is this line shorter? And it was like an insane moment to myself because there was like an inner battling of, I have to be fast. I need to get home because I'm not home working. What the hell am I doing? I'm just like out in the middle of the day shopping and getting ready for Thanksgiving. I was like, you should go home and work. But I've been removing myself from productivity. And I'm like, no, it's okay if it takes a little bit longer. If it takes 5 extra minutes, like, am I going to die? Maybe what's it called? The arbitration thing or federal. Do you know the thing that Federal Bureau of
Adjustment League Bureau.
Adjustment League Bureau is like, the world's going to put you wherever you need to be and everything. And so, like, maybe that 5 minutes is me saving myself from a car accident. That's like the always version I think of myself. And so they were really slow, but I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll get in this line. Like, nobody else is getting in here. Like, I'll do it. It's fine. And then during the line, I was like, dang, this really is taking a long time. And I was like, guess what, Victoria? That's okay. Why can't it take a little bit longer? Why do I have to go so fast? And I was just
literally,
like,
why do you have to go so fast? Okay. Yeah.
And I just let it be.
That's so funny that you had that experience yesterday, because that was me cooking yesterday. I was trying out a new crispy tofu recipe, which ended up taking me a whole hour, and I cooked it at lunch on a work day. And it's like my internal being, my ego was like, what are you doing? It's a work day. You can't just cook. You can't just do that. And I'm like, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And like, maybe that's not like necessarily into goals, but it's the same thing with your goals. Like, there's no rush. And yes, we put timelines and deadlines on things to help move us forward and give us benchmarks. But like, if you don't lose 5 pounds in 30 days, like, it's not the end of the world. What is the rush? And this is something I talk with my clients about how like, you can set a goal, right? Like, let's say their goal is they want to land 1 client this week, but sometimes you don't control that goal, right? Like, I can't control if someone says yes to hiring me or not. I can't control if I magically lose 5 pounds or not. But what are the things that I do control? You know, like in the moment you waiting in the line, what did you control? You could control your mindset and you could control your attitude, and that's about it. And sometimes that's enough and that's okay. And like when I'm talking with people, my clients, about signing more clients or making more money, it's like, what's in your power? Your marketing plan, your messaging, your mental health, what you're doing to take care of yourself, what you're doing to have fun. And if you can set goals around those things instead of just the outcome, that gives you a place where at the end of the week, you're not like, oh, I didn't sign a client, so I guess I'm a failure. It's like, no, what did I do? I did the 3 things that I said I could do in my power. Did they lead to a client? No? Okay, that's okay. Let me see what I can do next week to continue to do things that are in my power and feel good about that.
What you were saying, yes, exactly. And understanding that, like, by setting a goal, you might go out and want to achieve said goal, but it's okay if you learn other things along the line, and that the time frame, I guess we should get into this list, is it's okay if it takes a little bit longer and you had to learn a few more things before you could achieve said goal. That's okay.
Yeah.
So I guess let's go through this list. So the first thing I always do with my clients is it needs to be stated in the positive. And we've talked about this, I think, like 1 or 2 episodes ago, about if you want to know how you know what you want, whatever, is you need to first say like what you don't want and turn that into what you do want. And so then you can say like, okay, well, whatever you don't want in your goal and everything, whatever you do want, is now make that into a positive. So your goal can't be, I don't want to be tired. It needs to be, I want to feel rested. It needs to be in a more positive mindset. The negative mindset is not like a great place to be. And so you just do not want to state your goals in the negative.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. I had a client who really wanted to quit her 9-to-5. She freaking hated it so bad. And so all over her desk, she had Post-it notes that are like all the reasons why she had to quit her 9-to-5, how much she hated it, how much she was suffering there. And then she came to calls and she's like, I can't be consistent and I can't figure out why I'm not posting content and I can't figure out why I'm not selling. And so we started talking about how she was like setting her goals and how she was like encouraging herself. And she goes, oh yeah, I encouraged myself by saying how miserable my job is. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We got to flip that because negative psychology actually does not work. Like, why do you think we use positive reinforcement on our little dogs? Like, you got to say, like, when I quit my 9-to-5, I'm going to feel so energized. When I'm a full-time business owner, I'm going to be able to do all of these things. And by doing it that way, that allowed her to have more consistency. Isn't that crazy? Just like that.
Mm-hmm. And so, first, you need to state them in the positive. The second thing is your goal needs to be initiated and maintained by self. So an example of this is if somebody tells you, oh, you need to utilize schedules more so you stay more organized, and then you go set up a schedule or whatever, it's never going to work because somebody else told you to do that, and it's just not what's for you right now. You did it to appease somebody else. You're not doing it to like appease yourself. These goals need to be set and maintained by you. So you don't want to do either like, this is like a bad example because of us, of like, it's helpful for me to have you to go hiking every weekend, but that's dependent on you. But that doesn't mean I can't go do it by myself, but I prefer to do that with another person. And so I guess a better example would be like, I want to work out 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. 2 of them might be with Ashley cycling, but I can do some alone as well. And so even if some of it is dependent on others, don't make it entirely dependent on others, because then it's not easily to be regulated by yourself. And you're setting up yourself for failure in that way, because you can't always depend on a person, even though we would like to. No, we don't want to fully depend on our self-growth on others.
Yeah. And I also think like, kind of also what I got from what you're saying too is like, we can't do things that other people suggest. Like, you know, Victoria was like, I think this happened, and this is really hard. This is where coaching gets really tricky and people get really bad experiences, because I can tell my client that they need to post 4 times a week. And I can know that's true. And I can know that the more you post, the more, you know, opportunities you have to make a sale, whatever. But I never tell my clients how often to do stuff. I'm literally like, what do you feel comfortable doing? What do you feel is manageable for you, right? Like if I tell someone to do something, that doesn't mean it's going to be good for them, successful for them, maintainable for them. I even think of like how my sister was like, oh, Ashley, like you should start teaching college classes because you could do that. I'm like, that's a cool thing. I want to do that one day, but I can't do it just because she told me I should do it. Like I need to have a greater reason for that and a greater motivation for that. And I think that's where people get caught up, even in the new year, where people are like, oh, lose 30 pounds. Now's the time. You better start now. You better act now. You better go learn a new language. Like, and they're like forcing their ideas on you. And if it's not coming from internal motivation, like you're always going to like have a rough time accomplishing it.
And that's not to say don't take inspiration from other people during this time of year if you're seeing that, but don't internalize it and think you have to do the same.
Yeah,
it's okay. They're on another timeline. They're on their own journey. And if you're not ready for that goal, like you don't need to go do that. Maybe next year that's a goal you want to do. You can write that down and whatever. But that doesn't mean you need to do it right now. And you need to like, if you see it and you like it, ask yourself like, why do I like that goal? Why do I like that goal of learning a new language? What would that bring me? Is that something I've been really meaning to do and I've been holding off? Why have I been holding off on that? And we'll go into the whys more, but it's okay to be inspired by others. But just because somebody told you to do a goal, that is not something you have to do.
Totally. Yeah.
Not
definitely draw inspiration. And I think Victoria and I do this a lot in our businesses. Like we draw inspiration from each other, but we never do things because the other person is doing things. And I even remember once you're like, sometimes I'm like, oh, Ashley's doing that. Do I need to do that? No, I don't need to do that. I need to do things how I want to do things. And I'm the same way. I'm like, oh yeah, Victoria's doing that. I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. That's cool. But then sometimes you're like, hey, I'm sending out this kind of email today. I'm like, oh, I love sending out that kind of email. I should send out that kind of email, right? So like in those moments, it's like, okay, when I knew I wanted to send the kind of email she was sending, for example, and I was like, oh, I liked what she suggested. That's a cool thing to do. Internally, I was like lit up. It sounded fun. It sounded like in alignment with other goals that I had for myself. And it sounded like something I wanted to do versus other times. It wasn't always like oh, that's so fun. That's a great idea. It was like, oh, wait. Do I have to be doing that right now? Should I? Like, it's that like judgment that I think can help you just decipher. Is this inspiration because I feel excited about it? Or is this something that I feel like I have to do or should be doing or I am feeling shamed into doing? And that's kind of how I like decipher, is this my intuition or is this like my fear driving my action?
And is it demanded of you to do that, or is it like an inspiration to you? Because me saying like, oh, would this email type of work thing for whatever I was doing, yeah, that does work. Okay, great. So I'm going to go use that. Like, oh yeah, that email exists. I should use that because I want to do something like that right now. And you already were in the works of doing something. You just hadn't done it and you forgot about that style of doing that. And so don't take it as just like as a demand. Look at it as a demand versus invitation. And also look as is it completely turning the entire path that you're on? Or is it on the same thing and it's just a little extra thing to help you get there?
Totally. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. Like, how far is it veering you off your path? And, like, does it feel easy and does it feel fun? Just like Victoria's parking spots. They've been coming easy to her because she's, like, on the right path, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right. 3, is achievable in a time frame given. Now, this one can be, like, a bit wishy-washy because you don't have to achieve it in, say, like, I guess a great example of this is like 10K in 10 days. It's like, it doesn't have to be like that specifically. Think of small challenges to get you going, but what is the core fundamentals? And like, you might learn things along the way. The goal you might set out for, you might not actually be ready to achieve because you need to learn some things. Or you'll realize that that goal you set might have been completely wrong, which I just want to say is completely okay if that happens and you need to go on to a new path. And so, but you don't want to go all or nothing. So an example of this, which is so common with ADHD, and like Ashley has a great example of this, of wanting to do 20K in her first month because people have done that and everything. Like, it's totally possible. It is possible. My client who, when she started on Twitch, she wanted to go off on 50,000 people the first day. It is possible for that to happen. The likelihood of it happening, small, very small. Possible, but small. We can work up to that, but let's realize in real terms for my Twitch streamer client is, do people grow 50,000 people in one stream? Do people grow 50,000 people in 6 months? No.
Yeah.
So
right.
what can we really like look into? And not to like crush your dopamine either. This is just to like work on the all or nothing of like, that would be great to have that one day. Why is that great to have? Oh, because I would love to grow a big community. It would mean a lot for me in like music. I want to like create that sense. Like, that's so fun to me. Great. Okay, let's continue doing that. But how do we start nurturing a small community? Because let's be honest, if 50,000 people came in, you actually wouldn't really know how to handle it today.
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
Yeah.
And like that stream would be extremely chaotic. You wouldn't have enough mods and everything. And
You'd
it
be
would
overwhelmed. You'd probably be
disaster.
crying. Yeah.
So let's say this goal, we want to get 5 subscribers. Let's say next month you want to have 20 subscribers. Let's say the next month you want to have 30 subscribers. And set like a little bit smaller chunks for you to start achieving and succeeding more often, to continue the dopamine rush of succeeding. And the reason why I know people are like, well, you don't get dopamine from achieving your goals. You do if you set the sensory-based description of you achieving that goal. Where when you just say, I want 5 subscribers because I want 5 subscribers, you'll never really feel good about that. Or if you ever shame yourself into doing something, if you shame yourself and say, oh, I'm disgusting if I don't go empty the dishwasher, it's been like that for 2 days, people are going to think I'm so lazy, and then you go and do that, you are never going to feel good about that. You will never feel good. If you say, oh, guess what? I have a few minutes, let me go empty the dishwasher, you might actually feel better about it.
Yeah. And well, when it comes to like chasing the dopamine and getting 50,000 views on your first video, something I do with my clients is like, okay, let's believe that. Like, we have a stretch goal, craziest, wildest dream. What do you want to come true? And then we have a safe goal. Like, what's something that we know we can do that's going to make you feel safe? Like you were talking about, 5 subscribers, that's safe. Like, for her nervous system, that's safe. That's achievable. You know we can get there, all of those things. And then a stretch goal, which is like, if we do this, we're going to dream about this. And that's kind of like what I should have done my first month of business. My stretch goal was 20K. I didn't have a safe goal. I was like, I'm doing this or bust. But it did help me out. But the other thing I think of is like beyond just like how you're breaking down the goals beyond views, something that helped me was starting my YouTube channel. Because I think like for me, it was very much all or nothing. I was like, I'm going to post every single week a vlog, or I'm not going to do it at all, which is very much what happened at the beginning of the year. I didn't have the bandwidth to do that, so it didn't happen. I had to break it down so small and reframe what it meant to be successful. And, you know, on YouTube or with any of these platforms, it's like a number feels successful, right? 100 subscribers, 50,000 views, whatever. But I had to redefine success. Like, first is like, I need to film 5 minutes of a video. I need to just film 5 minutes. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I just need to break this all or nothing mentality. And so for me, it actually, before I could even do anything on YouTube, my first goal was like, stop thinking all or nothing. And that meant doing actions that were in the middle between all and nothing. So 5-minute videos. And maybe they didn't go anywhere. And maybe it was just for fun. And then it was like, okay, how can I make this longer? How can I make what I'm doing be good enough for me to just post and let it be messy? And like, so yeah, my first goals were actually around filming time. And then my next goals were around post per week. And then now I'm like, okay, now I have 98 subscribers. Okay, let me get 100. I'm like so close to 100. And then I'll be like, okay, let me get 150. Okay, let me get 200. And I've set these increments that make me feel good about myself because they happen within a certain time frame that feels really good. Like every 2 weeks, I know I can get maybe 50 more subscribers. I'm like, okay, that's very exciting. And so I'm getting that dopamine because I have these safe goals. But before I could even get to that, I had to like break it down really tiny. So again, it felt achievable and it was building on my confidence. Because let me tell you, in the beginning of the year, when I was like film 3 vlogs a week, I was like overwhelmed. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. It's impossible, you know?
And it's like, you literally did not have the time. You didn't have the bandwidth. You didn't have the mindset around it. And it just wasn't the right time. You're still doing it this year.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to happen in January.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy?
I want to say that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to happen in January. Even if I set my goal, like, and that's where I messed up. I set my goal every day I'm going to post a YouTube video, where the goal should have been at some point this year, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Because, like, that's achievable, right? Like, posting every single day from the beginning of the year through for 12 months, kind of wild to think of, you know, especially for where I hadn't even had a YouTube channel. I hadn't done that before. So, yeah, you don't have to do it at the beginning of the year. And the crazy thing for me about it is I didn't I kind of gave up on it. I was like, it's just not going to happen this year. But I followed my intuition, and like those little pings, those little downloads that we get, little weird voices in our head that are like, oh, you should do that right now. You should try that right now. I started to follow that, and that's what got me confident in starting my YouTube channel, because I was like, got the little voice in my head that's like, just film for 5 minutes today. I'm like, my ego's like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? You have to film a 20-minute vlog. And I was like, nope, follow the intuition. Follow the thing that doesn't make sense. And eventually it made sense.
And it's like, what did Ashley learn along this year-long journey? Is January, she had an all-or-nothing mindset about this and having to add so much to an already full plate where she was burnt out and struggling.
Yep.
The first thing she had to learn is that it wasn't going to happen. It was not on her ability to do that at that point. She had to dismantle a lot of stuff around her self-worth, productivity, and just doing everything all the time. She had to learn how to create a place of rest. And then she finally had time. I mean, there was a lot of other things in there. This is a very generalized version, but then she started to work on it extremely small. And so these goals, when you're setting a year-long goal, I know like a year is kind of big, but also it's like not, is it doesn't need to be like some massive hefty thing. And if it's a small goal, like that's okay.
Oh my God, I wish I set a small goal.
I went to Mexico. My goal was to make 2 friends. I wanted to really work on the final stages of like healing my inner child, inner self, like really get to the deep roots of my anxiety that I've been working on for a few years. And I wanted to really like accept rest into my life. And Mexico felt like a good place to really do that because like people are slower there. And so it's more acceptable for myself to learn how to slow down in that environment.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge key to that. Also in like a warmer atmosphere, you just always just feel like, oh, you know, like I'm hot, I can walk a bit slower or whatever. And so
just like being in Boston, everything is so fast. Like we walk so fast, we get on the train so fast. Like when I came back, literally the first day I was back, I've had so much anxiety. I literally felt, if you listened last week, the fishbowl tank, like metaphor, I felt like a fish coming back to a dirty tank, and it wasn't even my life. It was Boston. It was like the trains, getting on the T, coming back home. My house was dirty and I had to clean it up really fast because the cleaning people were coming the next day. And I was like, I literally cried when I got back, and I was like, I am overwhelmed. And then the next day I had to be like, why am I so overwhelmed? And I was like, I put myself back in this tank way too fast with way too many responsibilities. I need to ease back into this, you know? And that's the same thing with your goals. Ease into them.
Yeah. And so it's like, you don't have to set a massive, insane goal. Like you can set a goal of, I just want to learn how to rest this year. I want to learn how to take a nap. I want to learn how to be okay with a few more quieter moments. And that can be it. If that's all you have the ability to do right now, that's not bad. It's okay.
Honestly, that's a huge goal fine. Too. Learning how to rest. There is so much. I feel like for the past year, since last year when I burnt myself out, I've been dismantling my beliefs around rest. So if all you do is set a goal on how to rest and it feels silly and it feels simple, know that it's not, because so much around your mindset and your self-worth is going to change because of that like small, in quotes, goal.
And it's like also question why you feel like the goal is silly. What's telling you that it's silly or whatever? Like what's telling you that it's too small or it's not right? Like question what that is. I would definitely think of that.
Yeah.
Next thing, which we started to kind of go over, like that sensory basis description to tell us that you achieved it. We've already started talking about this, is the 5 appropriate size chunks. And so like we've already started to do that of like, so Ashley going into starting her YouTube channel is like, she set way too big of a goal right away and she needs to do smaller chunks. And so though your goal may be to rest, it's like, okay, so if I'm learning to rest, like what are the things that need to happen? I'm going to need to start just like being okay with creating a restful environment. So like removing some type of stimulation, that's not removing all stimulation, but like starting to slowly dwindle it down. So like I don't have to have my phone, my laptop, and the TV going at once. Maybe I just have 2 of them. Maybe it's just my phone and the TV screen. Then maybe it's just one screen. And it's like slowly going that and be like, and then, okay, Why do I feel like I have to have so much going on? What am I preventing by having all of this media going on? Okay, it's a lot of thoughts. What are the thoughts? Maybe I need to deal with all of the thoughts of whatever's kind of go in my head. Deal with that and curiosity. Then next step is, why do I feel like I have to rush all the time? Why do I feel like I have to be the first one? Why do I feel like if I'm not first, I'm left behind? Or if I'm not first, nobody will appreciate where I am? Why does my goal have to be so big? Why is that where my self-worth comes from? Why am I not allowed to take a rest? Why does rest mean I'm lazy? Why, like all of these whys, like you slowly find each of them. You cannot find this all at once. And so setting up, and you don't have to necessarily like know the chunks you need at first. I think like when you're working with a coach, like obviously they'll help guide you through those chunks and they'll know kind of what's going on. But if you find them as you go, that's okay too.
Yeah.
But like working on dismantling all or nothing is allow it to happen in stages.
So true. I even think of that with working out, because I know a lot of people are going to have the goal of getting fit in January because that's how the world works. So many people are like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. And then they mess up and they don't go, and they go maybe once that week, or they miss a day. And so they're like, well, I guess I'll reset and start next week, right? And it's like, I don't even think your goal, if you're getting back into working out for the first time, should be 5 days a week. I think it should be so much smaller. Maybe it's once a week. Maybe it's movement. Maybe it's not a full workout. What does movement mean to me? What does that look like? Is it going on a walk to start out? You know, when I was getting back into working out, Victoria and I started walking. I walked a mile a day, and then 3 miles, and then 5 miles, but it didn't happen all at once. And even with working out, it's like, maybe my first goal is to find movement that I enjoy, you know, and learn that. Maybe I'm going to go try Pilates class. Maybe I'm going to try a YouTube video. Maybe I'm going to try an indoor cycling class. And maybe the first step is finding the movement you enjoy. And then maybe it's incorporating that more a week, maybe a second time a week, maybe a third time a week. But it's not, if you set it up where you're going 5 days a week, I see so many of my clients do that, even with social media, where they're like, I'm going to post on Instagram stories 5 times a week, and then they miss a day, and then they don't post for the rest of the week because they feel like they messed up and they have to start all over because of our all or nothing mindset. And it's like, any goal, break it down and allow it to be okay for it to be small so it can feel achievable.
Yes. And it's like, as I've worked in the YMCA for years growing up, know that, let's talk in goal setting, self-sabotage happens when you're building a new habit. So if you ever become a coach, this is basically what you'll be taught is, so to make a true habit, it takes 90 days. That's because when you want to make a new habit is you need to change the identity around yourself. Identity change happens on a 90-day basis. Belief change happens halfway through this process. And so the belief change is where people get stuck, and that is where self-sabotage happens, which is typically between weeks 3 and 7 is where it will most likely happen, depending on the person. That is why, let's say everyone starts going to the gym in January. Week 3 of January to the middle of February is the highest cutoff period.
Yep. That makes sense.
In those periods, ask what's happening. Why am I losing self-esteem? The self-sabotage. The most common ones are, off the top of my head, I'm feeling I've been doing good, so I deserve rest. Or people might not accept me because of this new person I am becoming. Mm-hmm. What's the third one?
There's a really good book on this. While you think of the third one, there's actually, it's called Upper Limits. I think that's what the book's called. And it's basically like we all have upper limits that stop us from becoming successful because of these like 4 core stories that you're probably telling yourself. Let me see if I can find it. But
something else always seems more important. That's the top 3 ones. Something else always seems more important. Desiring acceptance, or I've been good, so I deserve a little break.
Yes. And if you want to learn more about like why you're self-sabotaging, there's this book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and it talks about the 4 types of upper limits that we have. And it's like fear of success. Like if I'm more successful, I'll become more of a burden to the people around me. They won't like me. I'll be all of this. There's like all these different things that we've probably taken on. So definitely recommend that, because the like self-sabotaging happens because of an upper limit we've created for ourselves. I can't go past the ceiling I've created for myself, because if I do, like Victoria said, then people won't accept me, then this bad thing will happen. Or it could be like what you're saying, like, oh, I won't be able to rest anymore, I deserve this rest.
And so that stage, that's like that barrier created yourself, that's where a belief change happens. And then when you change that belief, that's when the identity change can happen. And so you'll notice another different type of sabotage during like the last 90-day stretch, like the last 2 to 3 weeks, which is like, oh my God, I've gone so far. What have I done? Who
Wait, that's me this week.
It's kind of like an identity. It's an identity crisis. It's kind of like an identity crisis. You're literally changing your identity. It's an identity crisis.
Yeah. No, that was me this week when we were walking to cycle or whatever. I was like, I feel like I've been free falling lately, because like me and Victoria have been learning how to rest so deeply that it is quite literally an identity crisis. I mean, my ego is literally yelling at me in the kitchen because I was cooking for fun instead of working at lunchtime. Like, what? And it's like, I feel like I'm free falling a little bit. And you're like, I feel like when you're in that identity crisis, you free fall until you land into who you're supposed to become. And like, there's your old parts of yourself are trying to like bungee jump or pull you back into who you were, and you're like, nope, I gotta cut the cord, I gotta dive into this new version of myself. And it's scary, and like that's where a lot of us sabotage, because we're like, no, pull it back.
Yeah, it's a terrifying experience. It's
but it's good.
It's great, but it's weird. Yeah,
it's weird.
And so appropriate chunks. Next thing, we've talked about this a little bit, is keep it to yourself.
Ooh.
Don't
talk about it, be about it is my favorite way to look at that. But I know you have a different explanation.
Don't talk about it. Okay, so I say don't shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
I know you're excited, and this is not in any way to be mean. I know it can sound like that. I'm so happy if you are setting a goal and you're doing something for yourself. I'm so happy for you. Do not shout it from the rooftops. Shout it to people you are really confident in. Keep it small. I would say no more than like 5 people, like absolutely no more than 5 people. The reason being is because, say, when you've set a goal and you're changing something and doing it in the past, is people will be like, oh, well, there she is again, going off like that. Oh, then the next holiday comes around, they're like, so how did that go? And you've completely forgotten about that change. That is, you don't want to talk about that. There's a sense of shame around that, which can be hard, and you have to work through that. But let's not even create that place to happen for yourself. Let's keep this to not just you, but like you can make a video about it, write about how excited you are and everything, so that when you go back and you're having a hard day, you can look at those things as a sense of encouragement for yourself, and another sense, like lighting that fire inside of you. Do not share it with everybody.
Yeah.
It's only going to hurt you.
Yeah. And like, that's the reason why I say don't talk about it, be about it. Because first of all, talking about your goals, easy. Super easy. I can sit here and tell everyone I'm going to start a YouTube channel all day long. That's easy to talk about. It's really hard to take action on. And so that's why I'm like, don't tell people about it. Do the action of it, because they'll see you doing it. And then the people who see you doing it, like, yeah, sure, they can ask questions and stuff like that. But by being about it instead of talking about it, it also gives you what Victoria was talking about, freedom to change your mind. Freedom to change your mind without having to explain it to people. I didn't really tell people I was starting a YouTube channel this year. And that's fine, because that gave me freedom to explore what it meant to set that goal, what I needed to learn to achieve that goal. And I didn't have to explain to anyone, oh yeah, the reason I didn't start my YouTube channel yet is because I'm dealing with an all or nothing mindset. And I'm really struggling to figure out how to make goals smaller for myself. Like, I don't want to tell everybody that. I just want to have the freedom to change my mind and figure it out and do what I need to do. and people will see me do it when the time comes. It was the same thing anytime I've ever like gone into like a heavy workout period of my life where I'm trying to lose weight. I never tell anyone I'm trying to lose weight. I don't want people to know. I don't want people to say stuff about what I'm eating and be like, oh, shouldn't you be dieting or whatever, because people have their own toxic beliefs around how you need to achieve weight loss, around how you need to achieve any goal. And I just didn't want their input. I didn't care to hear it. It wasn't going to be supportive. And so I kept it to myself. I just took action on it. And they saw me going to the gym and they could guess what I was doing, but I didn't want to talk about it. And that's okay.
And there's also people you shouldn't tell until later on. And so like an example of that is like my mom, because she doesn't fully understand my business. She doesn't understand what all of this is online. Or me getting rid of an employee and everything is like, she owns her own business. My mom is a therapist and she owns her own practice and has therapists under her. And so she obviously understands like some of the struggles, but she doesn't understand the struggles of online business and all of that stuff, everything that I have to do. And so I don't tell my mom until after I've done things, because she's just not going to be able to understand and have that conversation and give me the support I need. It's also like, are they in a place to create space and give you the support you need to support you through your goals? Because you do need to tell, like, you don't have to, but telling somebody can be great. But who you tell is so important to make sure that they have space to support you. They have a mindset that's not going to be incredibly harmful for you. So it's like, if Ashley had eating disorders up to the wazoo and whatever, and I'm asking her for dieting advice, that's not only harmful for me, but harmful for her.
Yeah.
And so it's like making sure that the person has a good mindset around whatever you're kind of trying to do or anything is really beneficial. And sometimes that can be different people. And so understand the space and the people you need to go to for certain things to get the support you need.
I almost think it's imperative that you tell at least one person for it to become real. And what's really funny is I was like talking with someone who's like an expert in the chakras and stuff. And she was even saying like with our own intuition, last night we were talking about this. She's like, with our intuition, sometimes we get these ideas, these downloads. Like, for example, I got the download to start filming shorter YouTube videos. And what happens if you don't communicate that with anyone, and maybe even it's just writing it down that's helpful, your throat chakra gets blocked. It's like you had this download into your crown, but then your throat chakra is blocked and there's a part of your energy that's no longer in alignment because you haven't communicated the thing that you wanted to do. So I think like even on like a spiritual energetic level, it can be necessary to like tell someone and speak it out loud so it becomes like part of your reality almost. And also in terms of like accountability, it can be really helpful.
Yes.
You know, you don't want the person who's going to be like, oh, aren't you supposed to be doing this? Like, that's negative. But I tell Adrian every silly little thing that I'm trying to achieve because I know he's going to be like, how's it going? Are you having fun? Do you like it? Oh, you changed your mind? Oh, that's cool. What made you change your mind? Oh, that's exciting. And like that environment's super supportive for me. And I know people who don't have that, like coaches are always available. Find a good one, but like good coaches are available to be that supportive person for you. And like, I know that's why I love what I do. I know that's why Victoria loves what she does. Like sometimes we are the people that people tell things to, and that's okay. And, you know, sometimes it's actually a really beautiful thing that you can buy the support that you need. And I know that's probably a weird capitalistic thing to say, but like, in my life, I never knew before I hired coaches because I didn't have anybody to talk to about the fact that I wanted to start a business or that I wanted to like learn how to be more intuitive. And it was really cool that I could pay someone to be that support for me. And it's the same thing with therapy. And nobody thinks therapy is weird, or I guess they did it for a long time. But like you pay someone to support you when you don't have that support in your life yourself. And so there's nothing wrong with doing that either if you can't find people to support you.
Yeah, I always think it's funny because it's like, this is slightly off topic, but like to my therapist, I mean, like I ask her like how she is and everything, but I'm just like, that's my hour about me. It's all about me. I get to have an hour all to myself.
I don't have to worry about people judging me. Yeah, right. Like I don't need to like wait for Adrian to hear about his day before I talk about myself. Like you have a place where it's all about you. You can talk about all the things that you need. And I mean, there's accessible ways to do it too, right? I know coaching is extremely expensive and inaccessible to many, but like my Made for Everything group, $50 a month, and it's all about them. Every month they come and they talk about themselves and they vent and they share their goals and they share their struggles. And I know you do the same thing in your body doubling. Like, it's all about them. And we need places like that where we don't have to worry about if we're giving enough time to somebody else and their feelings, like just to be yourself and talk about the things that you want to talk about.
And a great example also of this is like, I had a client a few months ago and her biggest goals were just like, she felt like everything in her life was so hard. She felt like she was like a drama queen and making things harder than it needs to be. And she's like, I just want to be able to do my life. I just want to be able to do that better. And so like we worked through a lot of that. And like around month 2, her family came over because she was like hosting for something. And they were like, wow, you really like kept up with things. Like it's really clean. And obviously I know with ADHD, it's like, oh, you love inviting people over because then it gives you an excuse to clean and you can get everything done. But like she was like doing the dishes and keeping on top of everything. She was more present in conversations. And they're like, wow, we've really noticed like a great difference in you. Like whatever you're doing, keep it up, is like all they kind of said. And to her, like she literally started like almost crying herself. She's like, it meant so much to me. Like I've never had that. I didn't tell them what I was doing. I didn't want to. I didn't feel comfortable with that. But to see them noticing the difference in me has been everything.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And like that just goes to show that you don't need to tell people. Like they will notice when the change has been made, and they don't need to be a part of the journey to make that change. Have people who are part of the journey, but not everyone needs to be. But know that people will recognize like when you better yourself, and that's super cool for your client.
Yeah. So my last big one, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, is reminder of what you're working on. And so I know reminders in ADHD, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So a lot of the work with coaching happens outside of our sessions. So with my clients on the first session is we set up reminders or cues throughout your day and throughout your life to remind you of the why of what you're working on. So like we've talked about the why a lot is, so like whenever you set a goal of like, I want to lose 5 pounds, or I want to start a business, or I want to do this, is you really need to break down like, why is this important? Why am I doing this? Why do I feel like this is the right time? What do I need to do this? Why is this important to me? You want to make sure it's like an 8 to 10 on the scale. So when you're asking all of these whys, is create reminders that show you the why. Because with ADHD, right, object permanence and everything, is we want to create a reminder of that why for yourself. So examples of this is a lot of my clients end up buying, there's like these fidget rings on Etsy. They're like $8 to $10 or whatever. And they'll buy that fidget ring as a vow to themselves, to working on themselves, how this means in their life. Some people do it as like they're working on themselves as mothers with ADHD so they can be better to their kids because they know their kids will probably be diagnosed in a few years or whatever. And they want to give them the best life to them. And so they need to do this stuff for themselves so they can be better to them, so they can be present with them. So it's a vow to them to do that work so that they can give the life that they wanted to their kids. Or a great example of this, and I have 2 examples, which is one, I always show my clients this. If you're on the video, you can see it, but you can't really see it. Well, whatever. The Millennial Tower in Boston, my favorite building. I watched it got built when I was younger. Not that old. I basically watched it get built while I was like high school. I went to college. My dorm looked over it. The picture is taken from my dorm room. And I really wanted to go to a party in the building. There were people at my school who were, lived in the penthouse and whatever, and I wanted to get into there. I knew to do that, I had to make friends. Well, guess what I am? Socially anxious, extremely socially anxious. And so when I'm socially anxious, what do I do when I'm in social spaces? I go on my phone. So the reminder to myself to stop myself in my pattern is I put my goal on my phone screen so that when I pull out my phone, I am reminded of my goal literally right then and there. And I'm like, okay, no, before I go on my phone, I had to talk to one person. And so I did that for 2 months, and I got up into the party. It was great. The party was trash, whatever, but I was like crying in the bathroom because like I made my dreams come true and whatever. And so that was important to me because that was like understanding how far I could come in my anxiety and how I can keep going. So now it serves as a reminder of like how far I've come. So I have a client, this is a Twitch streamer client. So she really wanted to go to TwitchCon. When we started working with her, it was her first month of Twitch. And so she made a vision board that went on her phone screen. And it was like her at a concert, a certain arena. There's like a few pictures and everything. And she was actually looking back on it a few months ago. And I didn't really see the one that she made, but basically half of the thing had already come true. And
That's
it
so
was
cute.
like a reminder of all the little things she wants to start doing. And so she got to TwitchCon her first year. She didn't think, she thought it would be a few years to get there. She got there within 6 months.
Aww.
She got to that concert hall that she wanted to go to. And then she did other things. And so having visual reminders for you throughout your day to remind you of these whys because they are mentally there is very helpful.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like what Victoria's saying, like a visual in the sense of a photo. Because for me, I don't do that. I don't have like a vision board or anything like that. But I do have like in the back of my journal, my little micro manifestation list, which are basically my small goals that I know that are achievable within the next like month or so, like within 30 days. And then I have a bigger list of like 6 to 9 months. And I'm like do a daily check-in with myself. And every day I go to that list and I'm like, okay, did I cross anything off this list? No? Okay, that's fine. Yes? Ooh, what did I cross off? You know, and so like that helps me stay on track. And it's still visual because it's written down, but it's just a different way of doing it. So like either way, definitely do something to like be like, oh yeah, this is what I'm working towards, but it doesn't have to look the same for everyone.
It just needs to be put into the world in another place so it's not kept in your mind. Another version of this is so like the way I kind of was taught is you want to do something along the 5 senses so that you're bringing it into the physical world. And so whether that's a favorite smell, so like sometimes I have, right, the candle trick, the Pavlovian thing. So like tricking yourself into working great. Maybe you buy a certain candle and whenever you're allowing yourself to rest, you turn on that candle. Or maybe I have a lot of clients who do coffee. And so it's common with ADHD of like, I can never finish a cup of coffee. And I had a client, she was like, all I wanted to do was learn how to finish a cup of coffee. And so I was like, okay, well, what if this is part of your thing? What if that's your visual thing of like the coffee is your goal? And so she would take like 10 minutes and just drink that cup of coffee for herself and take 10 minutes for herself, which started to teach her how to rest, started to take time, got her to finish her coffee. She's having visual things of like, she loves the ritual of making it and everything. And then she's like, I just sit there for 10 minutes enjoying it. And so it can be any sensory thing. It can be visual. It can be song. So like every single morning you play a certain playlist that makes you happy and get you out of bed. It can be whatever.
I have clients who do, it can be anything. I have clients who literally stir their intentions into their coffee or whatever, their tea of the day. They put their sugar in it and they stir. They're like, okay, today is going to be about this and I'm going to achieve this today. And it's like, it's like visual, it's sensory. Like you got all the elements there. But yeah, I think like those intentional moments literally change how you progress and remind you of what it is you're trying to achieve. Imagine if I just rushed through my whole day and I never thought about anything that I wanted to do, be, or achieve. It makes it really hard. But if you take 5 minutes to like stir your little intention in your coffee or get reminded of something you're doing with a candle or a song, all of a sudden you're in that mindset to do that thing all day long.
Like another example of this is vacuuming. And so I have a vacuum that like you can see the stuff, right? And every Monday morning, I vacuum my room or like my apartment and whatever. Why? Because to me, that is intentionally of me setting myself up for the week on a clean slate. I'm imagining all of the dirt, all of the dog hair, all of the trash, whatever it is on the floor is getting sucked up and it's going away. Whatever, all of the shit from last week, that's gone. That's done. We're starting the new week with a clean slate.
Sweep it away.
And thinking of things a little bit like that and being... You don't have to be intentional with every single thing, but these are like minor things to start adding so you can be more mindful of how you're going about things so you can reach those goals.
Yeah, I love that. I love being like, and now I am sweeping away all the bad vibes in my house. No more bad vibes in me or my house. I love that so much. Oh my gosh, I was going to say something else around Oh, here's the other thing that I will say before we wrap up. Something that helps me build a lot of confidence in hitting my goals is like, yes, having these big goals that we talked about, but I set like a micro manifestation of the day for myself. And this is not my to-do list or anything. Sometimes it is, but it's like, if I got one thing out of today, what would I want to get? And like, some days it's silly. It's like, I want to find my Apple Pencil. That was my goal for one day. And it came to me in a dream where it was. That was wild. And then sometimes it was like yesterday or today even. No, maybe it was yesterday. Today even. This one happened fast. I was like, I want to know what I should do next. Like, that's pretty vague, but I'm like, what's my next step? What should I be working on? Me and Victoria have been resting this week, so I'm feeling a little wild. I'm like, what do I need to do next? And I like, for me, I know that means something creative, something fun, something inspired. I haven't felt really creative around content. And then I got an idea for it while I was meditating, and I was just sitting in silence for 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, cool. So like, sometimes if you want to practice goal setting, be like, I want to get an answer to something today, but then give yourself that time to get that answer by sitting with yourself. If you haven't meditated, then that would be your first place to start if we're breaking down goals and things like that.
Yeah. And like, I think with learning to meditate, because I am all here. I think everyone can learn to meditate. I don't think everyone right now is at the right place to learn how to meditate. It can be a destructive tool, but it also can be an extremely beneficial tool, just like with everything in the world. And it depends on how you use it, when you use it, and everything. And so I always say, like, it can be 1 minute. It can be 1 minute. That's all you have to do. Take 1 minute, nothing else going on. Like, if you want music in the background, make sure it's just music without like words or whatever. Make sure it's like relaxing, and just like kind of breathe for 1 minute. That's it. You've meditated. Done.
Good job. Check. You've learned how to do it.
It doesn't have to be 6 hours at the start. You don't need to do that.
No.
I could not even meditate for 6 hours. The longest I've ever meditated, and I've been doing this for like 3 years intensely, like 2 hours, I think. It's the most.
Yeah. I mean, today, like, when I meditated to get the answer on what I should do next, like, it literally was 15 minutes. 15 minutes, and my brain was like, here you go. And I was like, ooh. And actually, it wasn't even like, here you go. It was like a bunch of random stuff that I wrote down that made no sense to me. And then after, I was like, oh. You know, so you might not even get answers when you're meditating. It might be nonsense until you figure it out later, and that's cool too.
Exactly. Some things just won't make sense right away, and that's okay. Not everything has to make sense right away. You know?
Dude, and that's so true with your goals too. Like, my goal with YouTube, I thought it would make sense. I thought it would be easy. And then I was like, this does not make any sense because I am going about this the wrong way. And then eventually you figure it out. It's all good.
Exactly. And so let
right.
it be. Don't force it as much. And if you have questions, if you have thoughts or whatever, let us know. We will talk. We can go into deep diving on goal setting anytime, but
yeah,
think about this with setting up things for the new year, and don't get too wrapped into other people's goals.
Yeah. Create your own goals, live your best life, live your happiest life, follow the 7 tips that we gave you today. They'll help you out a lot. And I guess now we'll get into our client story of the week before we wrap up and close out. Victoria, take it away.
My clients are doing so well lately. It's crazy.
Yay.
I mean, not in like crazy in a bad way. What I do with my clients is really like build a foundation for them on their own lives. And there can come a point sometimes where it's really frustrating and you can get really tired because it is a lot of work. When you don't have a foundation, you're just honestly, here's my hot take. Everyone with ADHD is just burnt out. I mean, everyone in the world is really burnt out. But
everyone's burnt out. Even when I thought I wasn't burnt out, like I thought I recovered
I was still
from
burnt
burnout. I thought I recovered from burnout, and then like in the past month or so, I'm like, oh wait a second, no, you're burnout, and I was like, what the heck? So yeah, everyone's burnt out,
and that's okay if you are, but when we're building that foundation, it can be really exhausting, and you'll get to a point where you're doing so much work and you want to get to the next step. You want to get to all the fun stuff, but you still have more of that foundation to build. And during that time, I like to do this exercise with my client of what is the past 6 months version of yourself? Like, what are the things they do? How were they living their life? And what is the future version of yourself? And so that future version of yourself is like 6 months to 1 year. And because that's like a vision of yourself that you can kind of already see and start to like initiate and then create like a V down is like, where are you now? Like, how are you already showing up, and how can you start bringing in more of that like future self to regain some like dopamine in this and funness and newness in it. So if like you're feeling stuck or whatever, that's a great thing to do. If you're stuck on building your foundation and you're just not feeling it, also it's okay to take a break for a week. Like, take a rest. You don't have to. This is a lifelong journey. This is not a week-long journey. Okay, this is take your time.
We're here for lifestyle changes, not little changes. I love that, like the future self exercise and the past self exercise. That's so cute. Everybody do that. That reminded me of a TikTok I saw, which reminded me of something else. First, something else is I used to journal every Sunday about my future life. Like, it was my dream life journal. And so every Sunday I would check in with myself and I would be like, in my future, this is what I'm doing. This is what my life is like. This is what I've, done so far to get that life, and like all those things. And I want to go look back and see what I wrote. Because it was like, I used to do that at the beginning of the year. I haven't done it in a long time. But I saw a TikTok, one of those tarot card readers, and they're like, I think you have a journal. And I'm like, huh? And they're like, yeah, a journal. And it wasn't live. It was a recorded video. But they're like, a journal, and you used to write about your future self in there. Go open that journal up and read it. I'm like, this is getting creepy. This is getting weird. I'm like, but I need to go look at that. And this just reminded me of that. That's so funny.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know.
But yeah, they're doing great. And if you're tired, that's a great activity to do and understand kind of where you are, what's going on, and also like appreciate how far you've come.
So true.
Because like you'll be like, oh my God, I still am doing this stuff. Like, that's so annoying. And so that can like help you understand like how far you've come. And yes, it's not where you want to end up, but like it's definitely better than where you were. So
oh my God,
pay attention to that stuff.
I know. I even think about like me now. Like, imagine if I was mad that I realized I was still burnt out. I'd be like, oh, you're still burnt out. We're still doing this. And it's like, well, last year you were so burnt out that you were crying every single day and you physically couldn't work even if you wanted to. And now you're burnt out and you're choosing to take a break. That's like progress, right?
That's progress.
I didn't run myself into the ground. I'm choosing to rest before I get driven into the ground. And that is progress, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, honor that. I think that's super important to look at. And that just puts you in like a really good mindset to keep making goals and hitting them. Okay. My client story is a little bit more specific than that one, but that's okay. So I have a client who's starting a podcast like ours. How fun. We love podcasts. And she's been really overwhelmed. And I feel like this is like with goal setting, it can be really overwhelming with all the things there is to do. She's like, I got to find the right equipment. It's got to be the right price. It's got to be good. I got to figure out who I'm going to interview. I got to schedule the guests, like all these things. And her mind was like, blah, blah, blah. And we had like a co-working session yesterday and she came to it and she was telling me about that. And I was like, oh, well, like, have you picked a day, for when you were going to decide on the equipment yet? And she was like, no, what? And I would think that if you are going to make a decision, you will make the decision on whatever day you decide to make that decision, given you have all the information, right? So I was like, you need to pick a deadline for when you're going to make a decision on this equipment, because you can research infinitely, forever, on all kinds of podcasting mics and all that stuff.
Oh my God,
pick a day, and on that day, you have to decide. I even tell this to people who want to hire me for coaching. I'm like, okay, you need to think about it. I'm game. Think about it. I get that. But make a decision. Decide what day you're going to make that decision, because you'll know what to do on that day. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's so helpful, because now she has a day where she's going to decide to get that equipment. And she knows, as soon as she knows that date and all that stuff, then she can start booking her guests. Actually, she can start booking her guests now, she said, because she already knows what day she's deciding on the equipment. So now she can take action on the next steps. And so, yeah, if you are struggling with your goals and you're feeling overwhelmed and you have to decide a bunch of things to hit your goals, maybe you're working out and it's like this gym studio or this yoga mat or whatever, just make a decision. Say by Friday, I'll decide, and maybe set a time aside on Friday to decide. That can be super helpful.
Yes. So that's like a strategy with working with anxiety, is optimizing your anxiety. And so not like forcing yourself, like, I can't be anxious. I just can't be anxious. Is like creating a space for your anxiety to exist. And so with optimizing anxiety is like, set a timer for yourself, allow yourself to be anxious about this thing for 10, 20 minutes, whatever it is. And then understand like where I'll sit back and be like, okay, where did all that anxiety come from? Why did I have these thoughts? What might actually happen? Is this realistic, or am I just really nervous? Is this new and whatever? And like setting a time for decisions, setting a time for like, okay, I got all that anxiety out. Like, let's be realistic now with myself and everything. And like even just having like a decision day, a day you have to like, decisions are tiring. Okay. You can only make so many decisions in a day. And so create a deadline for yourself. Be like, okay, like, I'm going to get all of the information. Then by Wednesday, I'm going to look at all of the stuff. I'll look at 10 different articles and what they say. On Thursday, I'm not going to look at the information. My brain's just going to be processing in the back end. And on Friday, I'll make the decision. And
yep,
like
just
set
like
that up for yourself. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. And set small deadlines for, and if you need to like be on a call with somebody to do it, and like a body doubling session or whatever, to create space in your time and day for that can be helpful. Because we have a hard time holding ourselves accountable in those types of ways.
Yeah. Do it. And that all goes into goal setting too. I mean, that was like making a decision can be a goal you set for yourself. So use that to build confidence, especially with those things that you know you're going to have to decide on and do. Like practice goal setting with those small things, because then you're just going to build on your confidence and know you can achieve things.
Yeah. A goal I've set for myself for November that I've been doing really well on is I have to make decisions within 3 days.
I love it.
I mean, if it's like a massive thing, I can take longer. But like in the general scheme of things, of like when buying something or whatever, because I'm the perilous buyer who will wait freaking years, I have 3 days.
Oh yeah. Me, I still don't have a Peloton. I want one. Me, I want a MacBook. I still don't have one. I'm that way too with buying things.
Just get the same exact MacBook I have.
Yeah, I know. I just have to do it. But anyways, yeah, this podcast episode was so fun. If you were watching the video, I freaking loved recording this on the couch. Can we do this every time? This is cozy. Yeah. I'm so down.
Cozy.
And Max, I mean, surprisingly, Max was so good. My dog, he didn't come in the frame once. He only ate one thing of plastics that I had to go get from him, and that was about it.
Both at daycare, so... Sad. The man got daycare 2 days in a row because the holiday and everything. So he's a happy man.
Max is going to a dog sitter while we go to Ohio on Wednesday. I hope everyone has a lovely Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving Day while you guys are listening to this.
No, it's not. This is coming out a lot later.
Shoot.
Coming out in December. I hope everyone's going to have a great Christmas, because it's going to come out like a little bit before Christmas. And happy Hanukkah
and all the other winter holidays that you may be celebrating or not celebrating.
Happy holidays. I almost said Merry Holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it for us. I hope you have a lovely week, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.